Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. We are back here with The Division, and today we're going to be talking about side missions. Number one, why you should complete them, and number two, how I feel about them, my overall impressions and thoughts, are they good, etc., etc. So let's start with that first bit. Not only are you going to receive blueprints from completing individual side missions as well as pieces of gear, you also can have the opportunity to receive larger, more valuable blueprints from completing all of the side missions in any given district. So every time you wander into a district, there is a new safe house to unlock. You go to that safe house, there's a brand new JTF officer that has a fresh new set of side missions for you. Actually, they're not all that fresh, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, one thing I did want to point out that I really like about the way they handled the safe houses was just, number one, they're really cool locations. They feel like, sort of escapes from the outside world, the danger that exists outside of the safe house. They're just fun places to go and see. On top of that, the JTF officers that run the communications, the command in each of the safe houses, they're all their own people. They have their own personalities, they're different characters, and they're usually a lot of fun. They're super corny, but they're a lot of fun, and I really like what they did with that. So what happens is they give you those side missions. If you go out and actually complete all of the side missions in that district, you'll be asked to return to that safe house, in which the JTF officer will hand you a blueprint of much higher value than you received while doing the side missions. Now, as you push through the different levels, you're going to get different rank blueprints. So you'll start off getting a lot of specialized blueprints. Eventually, you'll start getting superior blueprints, the purple ones. So it's definitely worth your time to complete all of the side missions in any given district as you move throughout the game, pushing towards level 30. It's a great way to get your hands on some really great gear. I've gotten a superior M45A1 pistol that I've been able to hold on to for a lot of levels, a really great backpack, and I've also gotten a plethora of really great performance mods in the specialized rank. So a lot of reasons to complete all these side missions. Not only are you getting the experience and the blueprints and the loot from completing the individual ones, but at the end of the day, complete all those side missions and you get an even better blueprint. Definitely worth your time, and also a really great way of making the crafting system really relevant. Because I think for a lot of people, they were kind of just going to blow over the crafting system, but when somebody hands you the blueprint to a superior, to a purple piece of gear, chances are you're going to take the time to go out and craft it. Let's talk about the side missions themselves, though. There's a lot to say about the side missions, and I'll be honest, it's not all great. The biggest problem that we need to talk about first and foremost with the side missions is that as you move through the different districts in the game, you'll be playing the same set of side missions. So there's a rescue, a civilian rescue, there's a bounty, there's an uplink repair. It's the same set of missions in each and every district. So, at its core, it's already setting itself up to be rather repetitive. But the problem goes further than that. It's really not just the repetition. I feel like I could have dealt with the repetition of the missions themselves. It's the difficulty of the missions. They're really not all that challenging. Now, I do want to point out that the bounty missions are my favorite, and they're the only ones that I enjoy time and time again, because at the end of a bounty mission, you'll deal with the boss fight. You're essentially eliminating the leader of that chapter of any given faction within that district. I love boss fights. Any of these sort of extended time to kill boss fights in the Division are where I feel the game is at its best. You really have the opportunity to use all of your skills and abilities. Not to mention, these, much like the main missions, are taking place throughout the city. For example, I had a really great fight with a cleaner boss with my brother in a basketball court. Like, it was this really tight, confined area, and it was a lot of fun, The bounty missions really, they work for me. And much like the uplink repair and the civilian repair, they do tie into the story progression. Like, it makes sense to do these missions in each and every district, because the idea is that you're moving throughout the districts, dealing with the enemies, clearing up the leaders, rescuing the civilians, repairing the damage they've done. It makes sense from that perspective. But we really have to look at the civilian rescue and the uplink repair. Number one, civilian rescue, it's really straightforward. Do some smaller objectives, rescue some civilians, kill some bad guys. The thing is, they're just not that difficult because you're dealing with standard, roaming mobs. Occasionally, one or two elites will show up, but there's no mini-boss. The fights themselves just aren't that difficult. They're not that challenging. Are they taking you to different locations and different environments? Yeah, you guys know I'm a sightseer. There's definitely value in that, but they're just not challenging enough. There's not enough complexity or layers to them to make them interesting, and I feel for a lot of people, you know, the enjoyment level is going to start to wear thin by the time you hit level 15, level 20, and you've done that same same style civilian rescue mission just in a different location again and again and again. Now, at least the factions change as you go throughout the different districts, so that helps a little bit, but still, it's really not all that great. The biggest offender of them all, though, is the uplink repair. My brother loathes the uplink repair, and in fact, I think if he could, he would just simply stand at the bottom of the building or the location where I was doing an uplink repair and just let me deal with it. Uplink repairs simply have you pressing a bunch of buttons. So you go from one point to the other, basically repowering and repairing the uplink so you have communications online, right? It makes sense, again, from a story progression perspective. The issue is, not only are the enemies there really easy, they usually come in really small numbers or no numbers at all. I've done entire uplink repair missions with 0 enemy resistance. Now this sucks for a lot of reasons. Number one, it just feels like I'm going around pushing buttons. I want to be in some good combat, some good, good firefights. Number two, why the hell are the factions in the area not defending their uplinks? I mean, they took the time to tear these things down so the JTF wouldn't have communications. And now the second wave of the Division members show up and all of a sudden they don't care. They're like, forget about it. That just doesn't make sense, I would love to have seen more enemy resistance in those uplink repairs. Like I said, they're already repetitive, but at least we could have had some firefights along the way. I think the problem overall with side missions for a game like The Division, a game like Destiny, I want to bring Destiny into this conversation, is that they are very much games blending genres that we haven't really seen blended before. So I feel the developers themselves have a lot to learn in terms of how to create a valuable side mission. I know you don't want a side mission to, be sitting right next to a main mission in terms of complexity and length. There's no doubt about that. A side mission shouldn't last you the same amount of time as a main mission, and it shouldn't have the same level of complexity because it would just be another main mission. But that doesn't mean that you should just create, the most shallow and simplistic mission design and then have it repeat throughout all of the districts in the game again and again, because that's not good value for fun. Like, it just doesn't work, I like what they did with the bounty one. Like I said, it makes sense. In fact, I feel like bounties could just be a separate mission set of their own. They don't even have to really be included in the side missions. Just call them bounties. And I would have dug that. But the rest of the side missions really just needed more work and more development. And again, I think it's something developers working on games like this, they just need to learn. If we look back, 10 years ago even 5 years ago, at a lot of the fantasy RPGs that were releasing at the time, the side missions in those games, they weren't that great. They weren't really well designed. I think it took a while for developers of those games to recognize what makes a good side mission. How can we make a side mission just as memorable as our main mission? And I would love to see Massive and Bungie look to developers like CD Projekt and Bethesda, and say, what are they doing with games like The Witcher 3 and the Elder Scrolls franchise and Fallout? What are they doing to make sure that the side missions are just as valuable to the player as the main missions? I think they could learn a lot from those developers. The situation is made that much worse by how good the main missions are. I really, really love all of the main missions that I have played in The Division thus far. They're super enjoyable. Like I said, I love the variety in the environments, the locations. I like the complexity of the situations you're thrown into. The boss fights are amazing. You usually have secondary boss fights. They're just really fun firefight situations. There's a lot of opportunities to use all of your skills and abilities to help out your teammates. They're really well designed. So, you go through a district, you play one of those big main missions, and then all of a sudden you realize you got all these side missions that you didn't complete. It really just, that contrast makes the side missions feel even less enjoyable than they were before because of how good the main missions are. So definitely something Massive needs to work on in the future. Hopefully it's something they'll consider when they develop any DLC for the game. And if there's ever a Division 2, hopefully it's something we can see grow and change. It's just, developers, they need to, I just feel like more research needs to be done on the topic, on the situation. They need to wrap their heads around, developing more interesting side missions, to put it simply. That's it, though, guys. I have to say, overall, despite everything I've said about side missions, I don't hate them. you know, they're hit and miss. Like I said, I really enjoy the bounties. The uplink repair to me, I just kind of view it as the chance to take a break from the combat. And genuinely, I spend my good old time doing an uplink repair. I wander around, I look at the environment, I kind of take in my settings. Meanwhile, my brother's off, you know, doing a random encounter somewhere in the world, shooting enemies. You know, so to each their own. Everyone's going to have their own thoughts and opinions on it. I would very much like to hear yours if you've been playing The Division. How do you feel about the side missions? You know, how far are you into the game? Have they become repetitious yet? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Is there an individual side mission that you enjoy more than another side mission? You know, for me, I really prefer those bounties, but I could care less about the uplink repair. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say about this. If you have any ideas as to how they could improve the overall quality, the complexity of the side missions, let me know down in the comment section below. Now, I know we've been doing smaller videos like this, guys. I'm still playing The Division. I have not wanted to rush through this. I know that a lot of YouTubers feel there's value to just getting to level 30 to talk about all the content, but even as someone who doesn't have a very big channel, I've still been doing this for 4 years. I've learned a lot about YouTube, and I understand that it's more important to create a quality video that has all of my thoughts and opinions and expressions in it that I feel, you know, emotionally fits what I want to do, rather than to just rush to the end and just be able to talk about a piece of content before someone else. I'd rather be last and feel that I've done what I've wanted to do than be first and know that I've rushed something out because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So there's a lot of great video ideas I have. We're going to be doing character builds and all that stuff, but I have to get to level 30 first. So I've really been enjoying kind of breaking down the game with you guys like I've done in the last 2 videos. You know, we did our first noob tips. Today we talked about side missions, and I'm sure I will have a handful more of videos like this one as I make my way to level 30. If you guys have any other questions for me, throw them down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.